Neck-throughs, guitars, they're like a guy that won't have a beer with you.
I want to hear what's pushing the notes.
Freddie King and B.B. King, Albert King, and let's not forget Burger King.
I don't want to blow my knuckle out.
Stainless steel is the work of the devil.
These go to 11.
From the East Amplification Tone Labs in Baltimore, Maryland, it's the Amps and Axes Show. With your hosts, Jeff the Godfather of Low Wattage Amps Bober and Mick Marcelino.
Yay, it's us.
Well, good day to you, Mr. Bober.
Good day to you, Mr. Marcelino.
How is it going?
It's going pretty well. How about you?
Oh, it's going fantastic.
I'm busy, man. I need to. This is good. I need to take a break and get off the bench because I've been there far too much lately.
Yeah,
I've been busy.
Yeah,
I'm busy.
At my day job, I've been a little worked up too. We had a guy leave, good friend of mine, and he went on to another company, and it left us short. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just like all of a sudden you go, whoa, we got a little bit more to do.
Now Dr. Mick has to fix everything,
well,
right?
It didn't so much fix everything. It's just like you just kind of sleep a little bit less than normal. But, you know, anyway. Yeah. But I wanted to say thank you to everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes. We're still getting more Twitter. We're almost at 1,000 followers.
Awesome.
1,000 legitimate followers. So if you know a friend, we only like 24 followers away.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So we would love to hit 1,000 before Christmas comes. I think we'll get it.
I want to hit, well, by the time this comes out, we will, again, I'm going to put it out there. By the time this comes out, we will have hit 1,000.
There we go.
We will have hit 1,000.
That's awesome.
And I thank you in advance.
Yes. And this is our 51st episode.
Yes.
And we turned 50 last week, but wanted to just you know, kind of take the time, and we wanted to, you know, make sure that we let everybody know how much we appreciate them listening, of course.
Of course.
Clicking through the Amazon banner.
Yes.
That is on our webpage, and bookmark that thing. Christmas is here, man.
And you know what? I did it.
Guess what I did? I bought a 3-pack of Ernie Ball Hybrid Slinkies. 9 to 46.
Now what am I going to get you for Christmas?
Well, don't worry. I can use more.
Okay. Oh, good.
No, but I was like, you know, that's one of those strings that you can go to a music store. If you do a hybrid set, music stores really don't carry them as much.
This is true.
You know, because it's a mixture. And a lot of guys are like, just give me 9s, give me 10s. Mm-hmm. Billy Gibbons, give me 7s. And so, you know, sometimes I go in a music store because I like the hybrids. And I say, you got the hybrids? And they go, no.
What's that? Let me ask my manager.
And they go, well, we got these. And I'm like, well, 11 to 62 is not going to work.
They go on a hybrid car.
Exactly. So I'm like, I don't want cables or bass strings. So I'd like to have 9 to 46. So I ordered a 3-pack.
Very good.
Right through the old Amazon banner. Click, click, boom, done.
Click, click, boom.
It's almost like that band.
That's a song.
Yeah.
Yes.
The singer's name is Josie, which is my daughter's name.
Nice.
I don't know the name of the band.
The singer's name was Josie.
I can't remember it. What was it? Saliva. There we go.
Is that who did that?
That's who did that. Click,
really?
click, boom. I think so.
Wow. Okay.
I can double check while we're talking. But so today's going to be a little guest free.
Yes, guest free zone today.
We're going to cover some topics.
Yeah, we're you know, every once in a while we're just going to throw out there some things that we've been thinking about or we're listening to, seeing, experiencing, whatever. And you know, today we are the guests.
Yeah, so, it gets a little heavy sometimes. Some of these artists and manufacturers, these guys, you know, they work.
Right, and they have things called schedules.
Yeah, and it's, you know, we do this at the same time every week, and it's not always there for them.
Right.
And you know, so we have to work around a little bit. And sometimes we're not going to have the guests. And it's kind of a nice little milestone because we've gone, you know, to our 51st episode, basically. You know, we had the Joe Barden week there that increased the numbers because we started January 1st of 2014.
Correct.
And here we are, rapidly approaching 2015.
Yes.
We'll be heavy.
Where did the year go? Oh, yeah.
We'll be heavy on...
Should have been 52.
Should have been 52. But, the Joe Barden story, that was an incredible story.
Absolutely.
And we figured, how are you going to break that up, man? You got to go 5 days.
Yeah. Someone, I noticed the other day, someone had posted early single rail Joe Barden pickup pictures on his website to him.
Really?
And it was asking him about them. And he referred to the podcast series, said, I really explained this in much more detail in the podcast. Go listen to this.
Nice.
So
thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. It's his history and infamy now.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So point to it anytime you wish.
And it's very unique because I had this discussion today with a coworker that back in the 50s, the 60s, 70s, there wasn't many aftermarket parts going on at that time.
Oh, true.
You had very little selection. And if something went wrong, like he said, you just take the guitar and throw it away. Nobody knew how to repair it.
Yeah.
And if you did, you had to probably live near a big city. And, the guy would probably cost you a small fortune back then because parts probably weren't available to him either.
I'm thinking you did the same thing with a guitar that you did with a broken amplifier. You take it to the TV repairman.
Yeah, but what's that guy going to know with the guitar,
exactly,
right?
It's got some electronics in it. He must know something about it.
Guy's probably looking at it going, I don't know, it's a plank of wood.
Right. Thinking back, I don't remember luthiers or anybody even called a guitar guy, a guitar repairman.
No, you would have probably seen
we just tried to
violin repair guys, big instruments.
Yeah.
But nothing like electric guitars. Electric guitar, like Joe said, the electric guitar was kind of shunned. It was like, do not turn it up. Don't put it anywhere near us.
Don't make that amplifier distort.
Exactly. Well, that was unheard of.
Right. Yeah, because we used to try to fix things ourselves, and that's what you had to do.
Pretty much.
A lot of us were a little more mechanically inclined than others, and luckily we were able to do a few more things. But
sure,
yeah, other than that, what do? I guess you go to Lafayette Radio and buy a new guitar.
There you go. Sears.
Yeah, Sears, Lafayette.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So I was telling you about this the other day, and we started our whole podcast 50 episodes ago, where I said, are we scientists? Because I've heard this whole debate about tone woods and what works, what doesn't work. Is this true? Is this not true? All these different theories that have been thrown out. And the internet is just one of these places, man, that, when you start connecting people from anywhere on the planet, the opinions start flying in very rapidly, especially if you have a phone and you can do that same connection.
Right.
So there's this guy, and his name is Will. Well, his signature name on his YouTube channel is Will's Easy Guitar.
Okay.
And this guy, he's a little abrasive when he talks. He drops the F-bomb quite a few times, but if you can get past that, he's very knowledgeable. It looks like he builds guitars. He does guitar lessons on here also. But he gets into this whole thing of the scientific nature of what happens with an electric guitar. Actually, what happens with a stringed instrument as it's being played. And he explains that an acoustic guitar, wood choice does make a difference. It makes a huge difference, right?
I would
think about agree. You can go to Guitar Center right now and you can listen to let's use a Taylor. You could listen to like an 8 series, which I think is rosewood back sides and spruce top. And then you can listen to like a 3 series, which is mahogany back and sides and a spruce top, and very distinctive differences. The mahogany has more of a mid-range. It's kind of in your face. Good. It would be good for soloing, if you had to. And the rosewood is it's big. It's huge.
Full frequency kind of.
Yeah. But very, very bottom heavy, actually, So, but he gets into the whole thing of what takes place with an electric guitar. Now, this may cause some controversy and we may hear some flack from it, but
bring it.
I'm just going to repeat what the guy said, basically. He actually put up a formula, a mathematical formula of what happens to a string when it's plucked. and how that works, right?
Okay.
So there's string tension. There's a footage of pounds that is on each string, the length of that string, where the frequency is. So an open A is 110 at the I'm going to get this wrong. I apologize. But anyway, by the time you get to the 24th fret, the harmonic, that is a 440. Okay? That's how a guitar is tuned, to 440 in a standard.
Right. It's A440.
Yeah, E, A, D, G, B, E.
Right.
From low to bottom. From low to high, right?
Okay.
Okay. So he explains that with all the pieces that the string is touching.
Now you just let me back up. You said 24th fret?
Yeah, where the octave would be at the 24th fret.
So that would, I mean...
Your second octave.
Second octave.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
So that gets you to 440.
Okay.
The 12th is 220.
And
So
that's first octave.
Yeah.
And, yes.
Okay. So he starts getting into the whole physics of how it works. And he basically explains that frequency is the same, right? It could be on a 25.5-inch scale, or it could be on a 24 3/4. It could be on any scale.
Okay, I got you.
If you tune to a 440A, it's the same A everywhere, right? Because if not, we wouldn't be able to play music together. If a guy had a Strat and a guy had a Gibson.
Right.
Okay. So then he starts to explain how pickups are suspended. They're not even touching the wood. And that's your microphone. It's suspended usually on something plastic. Strat, it's on the pick guard. Gibson, it's on the ring.
Right.
Usually,
most times.
Usually made out of wood. Right. I mean, made out of plastic, right?
Right.
So then he starts talking about how, well, now the pickup, the microphone, is not even in contact with the wood, technically.
Mm-hmm.
Your contact points for the string never touch wood, ever. It touches the fret. Even if your finger presses hard enough to get the string down to the wood, it has no regard because the fret is where it rings from.
Right.
Right.
The fret is after that.
Yes. So you got a steel bridge, you got a steel fret, and you got either a synthetic or a bone or whatever, brass nut.
Which only enters into it when it's an open string.
When it's an open string.
Right.
So then, then the argument comes in. So then it kind of, what he's doing is he's trying to dismiss the whole tone wood thing. Okay?
Okay.
Using physics. Using actual math and science behind it. The whole reason that we started our podcast was that very reason. Right. So he basically says that it's been a selling point for the manufacturers to crank their prices up and make us believe as consumers that this is what you need. That a Les Paul is the only guitar that will get the Les Paul sound. And we've said it on this show. And maybe it's a vibe. Maybe it's whatever. Here's how you would have to do it. You would have to basically, and a lot of it comes down to pickups. I mean, obviously, right? Especially in high gain. Because unless it's mounted to the guitar, how does the wood really affect the tone of a pickup that's suspended in a pocket held by plastic? That's the question. How does that do that?
I think, and I'm sitting here trying to absorb this. And,
it's a little much because it's 55 minutes long.
And that's fine, but I'm trying to absorb it, thinking in my head, in theory it's right.
Yeah.
But I don't believe it.
Exactly.
But the wood, you have the string that is attached to the saddles.
Sure.
It's touching. It's contacting the saddles and it's contacting the fret.
Yes.
Okay. And they are contacting the wood. Mm-hmm. And the wood
vibrates.
It's conducting the vibration.
Yes.
Between those 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And wood is going to vibrate differently depending on what the wood is.
So that would just factor in your sustain at that point, because a harder wood, the string will ring longer because the vibration won't be absorbed by the wood, right?
But I also think the sound is affected by, I guess in the long run, you could call it sustain because, it's either going to sustain more or less. But initially, the transference is going to cause the wood to vibrate. Some woods vibrate more or less than other woods.
Sure.
The continuation of that vibration is sustain.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But the initial fact of it vibrating and how this point that's vibrating on the bridge and this point that's vibrating on the fret are being affected between them with the substance between them.
Yeah.
I think that's going to change the initial. It probably can't change the instantaneous attack, but it can change everything after that.
Yes. I hear a weird noise.
Yeah, I know, and I forgot to turn my damn phone off.
That's okay.
So I will turn my damn phone off.
I see what you're saying, and I agree with that. I agree that vibe probably comes more. Okay, so if we use the scientific method, right, where it's not really supposed to make a difference on an electric guitar,
okay,
then it's the vibe factor, right? Guys pick up the Les Paul, the whole vibe changes. Your whole playing style changes. I mean, it is true. I've had shredder guitars. My Carvin was a guitar that you could there was no limits to what you could do with speed and ease of play on that guitar. Now, you pick up my Les Paul, and you're not playing the exact same way. I don't care who you are.
Granted.
Because the guitar, A, is a jazz box from the 50s, if you really want to get technical about it. And it's not one of these ones where you're going to be playing up at the 22nd fret and you're going to be, screaming like Yngwie Malmsteen, because there's just this giant chunk of wood that's going to choke your hand to death.
Right, it's not designed for that.
And unless you're Shaq, you're not going to be able to get your hand around there. Exactly like you said, it's not designed for it. That guitar was never designed for lead playing up in the upper register, because all that was available, or all that was out at that time, was jazz. I mean, that's all the guitar players were doing. It was just a solid body guitar that Les Paul invented because of the accident he had, and that he could play the thing. I mean, that was the whole premise behind it.
Well, I think it was to minimize feedback from box guitars, too.
Right. Yes, because he could turn the amp up louder without getting any feedback and be more in the band.
Right.
Because when you got 5 trumpet players playing at the top of their lungs,
right,
you become nothing.
Damn trumpet players.
Yeah, exactly.
Freaking horn players.
So, and then, it's a very interesting thing. I will tell everybody, go out there and watch it. It may piss you off. It may make you okay. To me, we've said this before, whatever you like and it makes you feel good and you can play it, then just go with that. I mean, take the science side out of it, because we are just musicians and we are a little neurotic for the most part.
Yeah.
And it's like, you could kill yourself thinking about it, or you can just go, well, do the Dean Farley thing, sit down with the instrument and go, this thing feels like it should be on me, and buy it and go. And don't be influenced by what others may say about it. If you can play it and it feels good, then that's what you go with, man. I mean, because essentially the thing that you want to do is create music. It's not like the end of the world if you don't have a Strat, or if you don't have a Les Paul. Just because it may not fit you, then move on. Look how many guys are out there that don't play Strats and Les Pauls.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Tens of thousands of guys, and they seem to be doing okay. So, I got to go back into this theory,
this mathematical end of the theory.
Yes.
You know what? It's like all of this music. On paper, it looks good. On paper, it looks correct.
Yes.
On paper, it's got to be right.
You're talking about sound. How subjective is that?
I had dealings with someone who thinks that all this stuff is voodoo, and an amplifier is an amplifier is an amplifier.
Well, we all know that's not correct.
Right, but it's the same thing. A guitar is not a guitar is not a guitar. There's something about...
Well, let's take this. Well, no, you can't. Never mind. I was going to say let's take a violin, but that's an acoustic instrument. And yes, there is that board better be something, like a Stradivarius. That log came down a certain river. It was, there was in a certain forest. It was a certain tree. That's why there's Stradivariuses. I mean, and then nothing else compares to that.
Absolutely. They were made from a certain wood at a certain time, a certain way.
Exactly.
Certain glues and everything. So, I mean, that's like saying glue is glue is glue. Tell it to somebody that owns a Stradivarius and somebody's going to try to repair it with the wrong glue.
No,
it's not.
Work.
No.
Yeah, it won't work.
So a guitar is not a guitar is not a guitar. I mean, if it was, you could pick up a Les Paul and hit an A bar chord and pick up a Strat and hit an A bar chord, and theoretically it should sound the same because all those notes are the same frequency and it's made out of a damn chunk of wood. But brother, it don't sound the same.
Now, what would be the interesting part is if you could take the pickup out of the Les Paul, stick it into the Stratocaster, the exact pickup,
right?
Use the same electronics, so you'd have to get rid of the...
I'm talking, before electron, I'm talking acoustically. It is not the same.
No, it's not.
It's not the same. And that difference has to influence
somewhere
what comes out of it electrically because, even though the pickups are not, in most cases, some they are, but in most cases they're not attached directly to the wood.
Yeah.
They're attached to something that is attached to the wood, so indirectly they are, it's not like they're floating in space. They are attached to something that is attached to something.
I totally agree. And the other thing is, too, a string vibration is affected by everything, including the pickups. If you have a heavy set of pickups, I mean really strong ceramic magnets, don't expect a lot of sustain out of your guitar, especially if you have the pickups close to the strings, because the pull that comes off of those things, surprisingly enough, will slow that vibration down immensely.
Absolutely. I mean, if you have pickups with heavy-duty magnets and you have very light strings...
Forget it.
Yeah, that guitar is probably going to be, even acoustically, pretty dead.
Yeah.
Even before you try to get sustain
And
out
speaking of dead, I saw a video the other day, this Russian guitar builder, he had this really cool-looking Telly-type guitar. This guy makes guitars, and the neck was really cool, how it coupled onto the body. Mm-hmm. Then you see this guy play it, and he was like some professional Russian country-type player, which is kind of weird saying that. But he got up to the 12th fret, like on the G string, and I couldn't understand what he was saying, but I could tell that, through international symbols, he was like, listen. And when he would hit the 12th note on the G string, it literally didn't even ring. And I could see him kind of telling the guy, this is a dead note. Something is wrong here. Mm-hmm. Every note outside of that, 13, 14... 11 9, 10, all that, perfect. As soon as he got to 12, it was like somebody had a sock on the string. It was the weirdest thing. But what that is, maybe the fret's not set right. It could be a knot in the wood, where you have clear sides on both sides, or something is a void in that area that's not letting the vibration continue. So when you talk about this, there's an example. If it didn't matter and it was just frets, well, then something interrupted that transmission, and obviously it was the wood.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, you would think.
The bottom line, that thing it conveys is the wood. Now, like my buddy, I say my buddy, or Steve Mojo, the guy that makes Moses Graphite.
Okay.
He took that science level to a whole nother end, and all his graphite components sound amazing. You get everything. You don't get, like everybody goes, well, Les Paul's a little bit darker, Strat's a little bit brighter. No, you get everything. You get every frequency in the mailbox with a graphite guitar, because it just delivers all the properties. It has. There's nothing. There's no voids. There's nothing that can stop that, and it's very fast. So when that string vibrates, it transmits that instantaneous.
You know what I would like to know? It'd be a very interesting experiment. If you change the shape of that guitar, does it change the sound of that guitar?
That would be interesting. I mean, well, you look at Steinberger guitars. Now, most of them had EMGs in them, which then takes a lot of the guesswork out of what it's going to sound like, because that's an active pickup, and there's a preamp on it, and it's all EQ'd out and everything else. So it's almost like that could be a piece of steel. I mean, you have that Lucite guitar,
Right.
And you know that thing sounds okay. It's honestly, heavy as a boat.
Honestly, it sounds very Strat-like because it's a Strat style body.
Yeah,
it sounds very Strat-like.
So I don't, look, it's like I said, we could do this all day, and I'm sure there's guys out there that will tell you we're full of shit, or some guys will say that's exactly what I've been saying for years. This guy went as far as to get the actual formula and just write it down, and like you said, on paper, everything looks the same. Right. I mean, you have a string, you have 2 points. With Les Pauls, I mean, okay, so the Gibson guitars were out. I mean, the Gibson brothers, they were Orville Gibson, I guess. That company was well started way, way, way before Fender was even a zygote.
Oh, right. No, they. I think mandolins. They started with mandolins. I think,
yeah,
or
back in the 1800s,
and some other
right?
strange instruments,
probably banjos and everything else. So, but Leo was just an inventor. He was not a musician. He was just an inventor,
right?
And he had George Fullerton at his side, who was basically a designer. But you could tell that when they built the Strat, they were thinking about all the shortcomings that a Gibson had. Right? You couldn't play any upper register without this giant chunk of wood. The strings would go out of tune a lot because of the way that the strings broke across the nut and went off on angles. Instead of just an angle back, it went back and to the side.
Right.
So what's he do? He invents...
Completely changes the headstock.
He completely changes it, puts a straight string pull through it. He just scallops the head. He doesn't even put an angle on the headstock.
Right.
Which saved wood. And he was cheap. And he was thinking, how many boards can I get? How many of these necks can I make out of one board?
I've also seen pictures of the headstocks.
Yeah. Together?
Back to back.
Yeah,
right.
They fit right in each
exactly,
other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can make two out if we just cut it this way.
Yeah.
So, the design for that probably came from efficiency. It's like, if you cut it this way, you can make two exactly the same.
There's not a more field replaceable parts guitar on the market.
Right.
Everything bolts on. The whole electronic assembly is on a plastic pickguard that lifts off with 11 to whatever many, 9 to 15 screws or whatever version they have out there at that time. I mean, everything was very modular. He was thinking that way. You could see where he kind of looked at that guitar and went, well, yeah, that's cool, but man, everybody complains about their forearm being chewed up. So what they do, they put the forearm thing in.
Yeah, let's taper that some.
And that was all Fullerton. And he made it look like a woman. He made it sexy.
Curves, right, sexy curves. And the whole electronics and the plate, I mean, that just makes for ease of assembly. If you're thinking assembly line, you've got someone that would never even see the guitar that's putting all the electronics together.
Absolutely.
And you go pink, drop it in. And if necessary, solder the two wires, depending on where your output jack is, and you're done. Yeah, the electronics guys never even have to lay a hand on a piece of wood. It's so efficient.
Yeah, he was, and it was all about that. It was about being efficient, being fast, and no arch top. It was just a flat board. I mean, and it obviously worked with the telly. So it was like
ever.
Yeah, and it was like, well, let's move over to this, and now all of a sudden, you got a guy named James Marshall Hendricks playing it, and changes the frickin' world. And then, of course, that guy Eric Clapton, yeah,
one of those guys,
and
another
then,
one of those British guys,
and then everybody from there on, and then the Gibson. It's funny about Gibson because Gibson, I feel, and a lot of forum people feel, that this 2015 lineup could put a bad mark on their thing.
Really?
Everything's coming out with those stupid E-tuners. Like, all of a sudden, we're morons and we can't tune our own guitar.
Damn guitar. Yeah.
They're using some kind of adjustable nut. It's the weirdest looking thing I've ever seen.
Yes.
There's a 25% increase in the price of the guitars.
I was just going to say, I was looking the other day. I have it right here.
Yeah.
The one of the sale papers. A standard A brand new standard. Now this is someone a dealer that doesn't sell for retail. They discount a bit, and their price on a standard is $3,759, almost $3,800 for a standard Les Paul nowadays.
That's crazy. And I don't know, you can't see it on there, but it looks like that. One of the cool things about Gibson, some guys will say it's cool, some guys will say it's not. But one of the cool things that kind of separated Gibson from the rest of the pack was they would fret their fingerboards and they would cut the frets flush to the fingerboard. And if the guitar had binding, they would file the binding down and then actually file the binding to the level of the fret. So it looked like that the fret...
Oh, the side of the fret is bound.
Yeah, it looked like the side of the fret was bound. It looks like they stopped doing that in this new lineup.
Really?
Even on the standards.
That's what I really enjoy. The RO that I have is like that.
My SG is like that, And my Les Paul was like that until I had it refretted.
Right.
It's a little bit...
Which is a killer job, by the way. Thank you, Phil.
Yes. Let me tell you, that's one of those weird things that they're kind of like trying to turn the corner. Gibson has done these weird things in the past where they try to do different things. Here's another one, too, that, we talk about. In the 70s, Gibson was making most of their guitars with maple necks, 3-piece maple necks, even their Les Pauls. And it was nothing more than they were just snapping headstocks off left and right. And once again, what are you going to do? Take it to the TV repair guy? In the early 70s, who's repairing headstocks, right?
Right.
And so they tried to figure out how to combat that issue. So they were making them out of 3-piece maple necks. If you get the Zakk Wylde model, it's a 3-piece maple neck.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Randy Rhoads model is based off of it was based off his original 74 3-piece maple neck. Those were also sandwich bodies. They were not big solid pieces of mahogany. They were sandwiched together. Those guitars are really...
Now, were they 3-piece in the standards and the customs? Randy's is a custom, right?
Yeah, they were. Matter of fact, they had a volute on the back of the neck to try to protect that, give it some beef around that truss rod cavity.
Yeah.
Because it's so huge, that's where it would snap. It's where it snaps every time.
It's the weak point.
Yeah, and it's funny because people go, why don't the Epiphones snap, but the Les Pauls, the USA models do? And it's like, well, because the Epiphone models have the Allen wrench, so it's a much smaller truss rod channel for the adjustment.
Oh, so you don't have to put a nut driver in there.
You don't have to put a nut driver in. And that's one of those things that I go, they're worried about putting mini E-tuners on the guitar. Jesus. Why not fix the thing that's been the Achilles heel of that guitar for the past 50 years? Just put a different truss rod in there. It's not like the end of the world, but it must be something they're trying to hold this traditional thing or something. I don't know, man.
I don't know. Maybe they changed them because they've made so many differences now. I'd be curious to see if they actually went to an Allen, because this is no longer traditional when you're putting tuners on there to tune their own, tune the damn guitar itself, and you're taking the binding away from the side of the frets. How far away from tradition do you have to go before you realize that you should probably change the cutout for the damn nut on the truss rod?
Well, here's the other thing too: is what drives all that is they're publicly traded. So there's a lot of suits and ties in there that don't care one iota. They just want to see product flying out the door. Now, raising the price is 25%.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that Firebird or Firebird X, whatever that horrible, god-awful, most... I just don't even understand. Never got one positive review from anyone, and it was like $6,000.
Wow.
You heard about it, right? It had built-in effects. It could mimic any kind of sound you wanted. It had mini tuners. It had like 800 different combinations of pickup sounds, singles to doubles to everything. Came with a wireless foot controller that controlled the thing. It was all MIDI and DIN pins and all kinds of craziness in this thing.
Wow.
And it fell on its face. It was the most horrible sounding instrument on the planet. When they did demos of these things on YouTube, it was just embarrassing. Because you didn't...
It died before I knew about it, obviously.
Oh, it was hard. And they couldn't even... I said, I want to see the actual number of how many of those Firebird X's they sold. I really do. Because it couldn't have been a dozen. I mean, and if they did sell them, it had to be to music stores, and they're probably sitting on the wall, and they're probably going, just take the hit and sell this thing for $800. Because, I mean, they were like $6,000.
Wow.
And it was a toy. It was ridiculous.
Now, see, you want to make a Firebird, you make the Johnny Winter Firebird.
Yes, you do.
Okay? Make the Johnny Winter Firebird, and if you want to put effects in it, the only thing Johnny used was a little bit of chorus. So stick a little bit of chorus inside the thing, and you'll sound just like goddamn Johnny Winter.
There you go.
And be done with it.
Yeah.
You know?
Remember the old Electras? Electric guitar?
Electra, yes.
They used to come with a pack that you could put in the back of the guitar, and it was an effect.
Yeah, some of them did. I have one that doesn't.
Yeah, you could have like gotten a phaser or a distortion, and it was a little switch on there, and it ran by a 9-volt, and you could turn it on. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Neat concept. Didn't fly.
No, but you know, I mean, with the Gibson thing, it sounds like if the electronics went down, or if your foot controller went down, or something else,
you'd be screwed.
You're done.
Yeah,
you're done.
Oh, that guitar was a nightmare. I have to show it to you after the show and let you see it. Maybe I'll put some pictures up on the website to let you see that little trick they tried to do.
Wow.
Gibson has always come up with these weird ideas, and I don't know why. You know, they take a I love this. They take a signature model, and then they put everybody's signature on it, right? The Les Paul is a signature model guitar. It's named after the guy who invented Les Paul.
Les Paul, that's true.
It's not the Fender Leo. It's not the Leo Fender Stratocaster. It's just a Fender Stratocaster because Fender was named after Leo.
Right.
But yet, and they do make signature models of that, right? Eric Clapton, Buddy Guy, which makes sense because they put their own little thing on it. You know, like if you buy the Yngwie Malmsteen model, it's all scalloped.
Right.
And it's got his pickups and all that. But the Gibson Les Paul is the strangest thing because I have a signature. What is it? Well, it's the Warren Haynes Les Paul.
Well, but then again, I mean, you can look at it that way, but you also have to look at it. It's like, it's not really a signature model because if it was, it would have already been an existing model, and this particular one with these features has Les Paul's name on it. So
I know what you mean. But
a Fender is a Leo Fender. It is. So I don't know. It's one way to look at it, but I'm playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I always look at it like that. I go, well, you have that, because
double signature.
Because it was Ed Roman, God rest his soul. He has a little rant on his webpage. A lot of people don't, buy into his stuff, but he worked for Gibson. The guy knows the marketing world. Mm-hmm. These guys they're there for one thing: make money. Right. First and foremost, and when they're publicly traded, you better make a lot of money because there's people that got money out of their pocket into that company, and that's all they want to see is a return. Right. And they don't care if you're making spaceships and you put Gibson on the side of it. That's what they care about. Well, he said that, the Gibson brand, they did that whole thing. They did all these signature models to generate, because if not, you got what? You got the studio, you got the standard, and you got the custom
and the deluxe. Do they still make it? Well, they make a deluxe as like a kind of a reissue kind of thing, but I don't think it's part of a line.
They got the traditional, and that they start throwing all these names out. So they're just trying to create product line.
There's really too many styles to keep up with.
Well, we've had this conversation. I would like it if they would just go, okay, here's the Les Paul, right? Maybe a custom and a standard, a studio, whatever, right? And then here's the Strat.
I don't think you should make a studio. Custom, standard, maybe a deluxe.
Yeah. Here's the Strat. Here's the Tele. Here's the SG. Here's the Flying V. Just go down the line, right, to all the Jazzmaster. All these types of guitars. Mm-hmm. And then let everybody else customize them.
Well, that's what was happening back in the 80s.
How many guys do you know have the original pickups in their guitars? It's very little. The guys that are out there playing, I know guys that change pickups like they change the oil in their car. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, well, I'm putting antiquities back in here, and it's like, why? Well, I'm listening to the quarter pounders, and they're a little heavy, and I'm thinking I may want to go back to those. And it's like, well, how many sets of pickups do you have? I have 14. I used to do it. I was one of those guys. I went through, I don't know how many pickups in my day.
Well, it's if you buy extra pickups, if you buy aftermarket pickups, it's probably best to keep them because resale value on pickups is
nothing.
Crap. It's nothing. So if you buy them, just be prepared to keep them. You're not going to get your money's worth. But it's okay. I mean,
because then
sometimes
you drop them in. You go, man. You know what? I haven't heard this in a long time.
Yeah. Or you get another guitar that the pickups are crappy. You go, hey, I got a set laying around. And,
Yeah. Exactly.
Right. I can put these in, and this is going to be great.
That's like me and tuners. Because I always change all my tuners out, the locking tuners. So I got all these extra tuners laying around. I'm going, well, what am I going to do with these? Because nobody's going to buy these.
Speaking of tuners, do you have the original tuners?
I do.
Black?
Yes, I do.
I'm very curious, and I'll tell you why. I was I have Mick's black Les Paul that I'm thinking of purchasing from him, and I'm comparing it to my like tobacco or whatever you call the
tobacco
darker
burst,
one, tobacco burst that I have, and it's really strange. The guitar, and see this whole gets back into physics and everything. The guitar body itself. Now I really do want to put the same set of strings on both guitars
to test it out.
To test it out for sure. But body wise, I think they're very similar. As far as tone.
Okay.
In the body.
Now there's a definite weight difference.
There's it's not as much as you think. It's not as much as we should weigh them.
I'll weigh them.
Yeah. But they're very similar in tone from what I think I'm hearing from the body. But the difference that I think I'm hearing in the tone of it, and there's yours is spankier, the black one is spankier and has a little less mids than the tobacco burst one. Not the RO, not the cherry burst, but the tobacco burst one that I have.
Okay.
And that difference in tone seems to originate in the neck area.
Well, it could be because mine has equivalent to a railroad track for fret wire. I mean, there's a lot of metal on that neck. I mean, if you think it, those are the next to largest fret wire that you can get from Jescar. There's only one size above that, and that is super jumbo. I don't even know what the number is. It isn't even a Dunlop number because it doesn't exist in Dunlop.
In Dunlop,
world.
right.
This is like equivalent to a 6,000 or 6,100. I forget what it is. It's huge. Well, you saw that. They are huge frets on there. That's
very comfortable, though.
That's a true jumbo fret. So there's a lot of metal there, and I'm thinking maybe that's... And like we didn't have a discussion on the air, but we did off Jescar's frets. The thing that I like about Jescar's, and they will be a little bit brighter, is because they use a nickel content in there. They're not as hard as stainless steel, but they're not as soft as like a Dunlop. They're kind of in that middle of the road. So the fret wear life is
greatly extended.
2.5 times longer than a Dunlop, but not quite as long as a stainless steel.
Well, I mean...
And guys don't mind using them because they don't ruin their tools.
I was going to say, luthiers, probably enjoy that because...
Totally cool with it.
You don't have to purchase a new tool with your fret job.
And what they like is that usually they do the fret job, and then they send you on your way, and you never have to see them again.
Right.
Because it takes a very long time to wear through those. Yeah, but they are pretty big speed bumps on that thing. So I'm thinking maybe that's why you're hearing that.
Could be. I was thinking maybe it had something to do with the tuners because you have the locking...
I do have the locking Grovers.
Yeah. But then again, I started to think that, and then I was thinking, well, everybody's always adding mass to the headstock to get more sustain out of it.
Unless you're Spurzell. They're light. Their tuners are ridiculously light.
But I mean, people like back in the 70s, they had the fat head
with the plate.
Yeah, you take the tuners off, you put this big brass plate on the back of your headstock.
Get a Strat to ring longer, yeah,
right.
or Gibson, yeah, I agree.
So maybe it's not that. Maybe it has something to do with the wire, or I don't know.
I don't know, but I do know what you mean. That guitar has got a little bit of brightness to it. Which
is very cool for a Les Paul.
Mm-hmm. Now, if I put the original pickups back in it, hang on, because it's nothing but a metal machine. Then it's a 490 and a 498 or whatever whatever that set is, the 490T and the 498R or something like that. Yeah. The T is
it's the standard hot Gibson.
Yeah, and
set.
That was a ceramic magnet.
Yeah.
What's in there now is your original Mojo,
the Mojo tone of
PF clones.
Right.
Yeah, very nice pickup.
They're Alnico. I don't remember whether they're 3 or 5.
I think they're 3.
They might be. They might be on the good 3.
Yeah.
I don't even know if they did them with 2s as well. I had a few sets.
They got into that pickup business, and I mean, Mojo, they kind of do everything right.
Yeah, they're
everything they do is really good.
They're trucking right along.
Yeah, good for them too, because good American-made company. And
yeah, I actually can't believe how large the company is getting.
Yeah,
it's good.
You were having your cabinets made there, right?
Actually, still do, and their lead time had become very, very long. But as of late, I think they've been able to streamline again, and they've begun to bring the lead times back down some again, which is really, really good. I know they expanded like crazy and probably had some growing pains, but they're doing good now. So
I guess I've ranted on about that whole thing, but I just I wanted to bring it up because I love that it goes that way. This conversation would never happen 15 years ago.
No, because people weren't as neurotic 15, 25. It never would have happened 25 years ago, for sure.
Most guitar players just didn't give a shit. They just wanted to be able to play like Eddie Van Halen and get chicks.
Right. Yeah. Now everybody's overthinking.
And that's I guess that's the crux of my point here is that once we start doing, and we've said it, once you start overthinking, it's not music anymore. And take it as playing. And you know this as much as everybody that can hear me. If you have to think about what you're doing when you're playing, you're not playing, right?
Right. That's not an overall encompassing statement, because if you're thinking about what you're playing or what you're playing next, sometimes you got to do that. Yeah. Sometimes you got to do that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but if you're thinking about your gear more than the notes that are coming out of it, you're not having fun.
No.
You're not having. Music's supposed to be fun, man.
It is supposed to be fun. And boy, I tell you what, I think this whole collection world or something has created this mass hysteria with that is a tone wood. There is no such thing. And then there's like a lot of finger pointing. And then, of course, the internet, man. There's just...
Well, I mean, personally, for me, it's more important to play something that feels great, that's inspiring, and that sounds the way I like it to sound for whatever particular use.
Yeah.
Type of music or band, that I'm trying to play. It's more important for me to have something that works for me that way than to know why.
Yeah. Plus, it looks cool.
Well, it does. But yeah, there's a lot of thinking about why, a lot more than maybe there should be, I mean,
if we thought about this of why we're on this planet as much as we think about how a guitar sounds.
Yeah, maybe we'd clean the place up and be a little more respectful of it.
Do you think?
Yeah, just
you wouldn't have everybody's feet all over the airplane and dogs shitting in the middle of the
aisle. Yeah. Thinking about the wrong things.
Yeah.
It's fun to think about. It's really fun to think about. I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy it. And it's nice to know. It's nice to find out. It's nice to converse about.
Sure. Although I wouldn't want to find out how the universe was made.
Well,
because that takes all the fun out of it.
Yeah.
To me, a point. Because if I drop dead and there's nothing, I'd be pissed. Some people, but if I drop dead and it's all and there's something cool, then all that thing I was thinking about is worth the time.
Some people are sure as how it was made, and other people are, know about as much as the scientists know, and which means we're not quite sure.
We got people trying to kill us, tell us how it's made.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. And we'll know more about the universe soon, because they just put that.
Well, eventually we'll all die,
and then we'll know more.
There is an end to this podcast.
But they just landed the satellite on the and this is going to be a week ago on the comet.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
That is crazy.
Yeah,
they had to go around a planet like 3 times,
and it wasn't even the original comet they wanted to land it on. They missed their opportunity for that one, and they shut this thing down, the
and then
satellite down,
and then found another comet
for like, oh my God, I don't remember how long. 39 months or years or something. They shut it down because the battery life is going to die. And then when they thought that it might be in the right spot to maybe put it on another comet, they turned it back on just by a guess that it might be close enough to something. And damn, it's sitting on a comet now. What the hell?
Can I just
How
ask?
fantastic is that?
I just want to ask one question, and I know we are now way off topic for guitars and amps, but it's cool.
Well, the Strat did come from another planet. You know that.
I know. I often wonder when we're throwing satellites out there for 3 years plus, turned off, and it's still going in the same trajectory, and then we flip a switch here, and God knows how many million miles away this thing turns itself back on. How can we not have a cure for every disease on the planet? I mean, hello?
Yeah.
Okay, I just want you to know, my iPhone will be dead if I don't charge it when I get home. I'm sorry, when I get out my car within 11 hours. But they got a satellite that is whipping through space at like 83,000 miles an hour. Okay. Yeah, I just
we should all be completely 100% repaired through microtechnology at this point.
Right now, this podcast should be done through telepathy or telepathy, right?
Right, telepathy,
yeah,
telepathic waves.
Yes,
right,
we should be able to do this without speaking, and I should be able to say the words that I'm thinking.
Well, you should be able to hear the word. I should be able to hear the words that you're thinking.
Yes,
you shouldn't have to say them. Right, I get it.
Exactly, and they'd be correct.
But boring as hell.
You never know. I don't know. Maybe it'd be like a party.
I like speaking once in a while.
Exactly. You know? But one thing I wanted to say is I truly believe, more than the guitar theory part, I really do believe that the amplifier, your world, makes a bigger difference than that plank of wood. And I'll tell you why. Because I have heard the difference between a mediocre, a crap amp to a mediocre amp to something that I paid a lot of money for to what you build, some of the other guys that we've had on our show that build, and there is a substantial difference in what you get out of that thing. You can take the same guy and plug it in the crappy, and it's like, and now it's going to sound like whoever's playing it, but what I'm saying is, there's something that goes on. That Mojo world is definitely influenced by the design of what's inside that box.
Absolutely, and it's not only the electrical design of it; it's the layout. Yeah. You know, the way it's built. You know, the style that it's built in. Everything has something to do with the final outcome of that. You know, when we were talking about the guitars before, I was saying, like, I was going to say that I can affect a change in an amplifier by moving wires. Yes, you can absolutely do that. So
not making them shorter or longer, just moving them.
Just moving them. I would imagine that shorter or longer would have some difference too. Now, not to say it's a big difference and maybe not noticeable to most. You know, maybe it's this is like very critical listening kind of thing, and it's more you can hear the difference if you're listening to noise levels than maybe you can hear if you're actually playing notes. But everything affects everything.
So sort of like if you were Eric Johnson.
Right.
And I'm not making fun of Eric Johnson.
No.
But when I did read the article, I was like, okay, you're going to tell me that the screws in the cabinet are going to make the difference. But it's Eric Johnson, so what am I going to say?
Right. Like I said, the last time I was standing next to him, he was behind a 412 cabinet changing the length of the wire inside the cabinet, you know? So, but honestly, I think that has...
Do you think he sleeps okay at night?
Oh, God. Well, what a question that is.
I mean, if you're that absorbed, it's got to be noises to him. I don't know if you can enjoy it.
Yeah, that's.
I wonder if
honestly, I mean, I wake up thinking of things, but somebody like that, I wonder if the brain ever turns off enough to actually get rest.
He seems very zen-like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I didn't mean to kill your point here.
No. It's fine.
But you know what I mean? I mean, I wonder, does this guy like go around like needles are jabbing him in the face when he hears certain things? What does he hear that we're not hearing?
I don't know, but going back to the point we made a few minutes ago, can he be happy when he's playing?
I don't know.
Right? I don't know. That's
I mean,
that's
I would think that because he supposedly, I've read the articles that little tiny things he picks up.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine you're playing and all of a sudden the thing kind of just changes because a tube starts to do something that what tubes do?
Yeah. No, I mean, but honestly, that has to be ridiculously hard to be aware of in a live environment. It really does. It really does. Like the changes I was telling you about, moving a wire.
Yes.
You never hear that in a live environment. You never. And I don't think it would be enough to affect
like the Strymon delay. The Strymon delay.
Which means,
well, I remember I said that you could take the most generic sterile delay, and when you put it with a band, you barely ever even.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you get a very expensive Strymon, everybody goes, well, you can hear the tape flutter. And I go, not when you have a drummer that's trying to shatter a Zildjian cymbal 2.5 feet away from your head. That Strymon won't. You'll be lucky if you hear a delay.
Yeah, I think something you feel more than hear, and I think you're feeling it subconsciously. There's something different. There's something different to the feel of it. But yeah, some of these things you're just not going to hear.
I took you so far off topic.
That's I can still come back to it.
Okay.
The little changes like that. I don't know that I'm sure that they're not going to largely affect the overall sound of the amplifier, but there are little changes like that happen.
Sure.
But the thing is that if you get a whole bunch of these changes on top of one another, that's when it starts affecting the overall outcome of the product. I was thinking when you were talking about the guitars, and this goes back to Eric Johnson, how his pedal board used to be massive. Like it almost used to be a 4x8 sheet of plywood. It was about 3x5 really,
and with like 6 pedals on it.
Right, because they all had to be in proper distance and relationship to each other,
and they're not in line perfectly either. It's like they're turned one way or turned another way.
Yeah. Now, maybe here's it. I'm not going to say, at that point, I think the distance, the length of the cables that you need to connect them is going to make more difference than the damn position of the two units, but who the hell am I? But, that got me to think about the guitar. It's like, even a guitar that has different pickup spacing is going to be different, because those two pickups are going to be affecting each other.
Steve Morse talks about that.
Right. The magnetic force of each pickup is going to be affecting each other. Not that it's going to put more or less pull on the strings, but they're going to be interactive with each other as well.
Now, we talk about this, and one guy that you would think would never have this to say is Steve Vai. He actually will tap the body and tap the neck, and because he's Steve Vai, he goes, well, that's an F sharp and that's a C sharp, and if you put those two together, and he knows so much musically that he goes, well, now you have a major third or something like that. And he goes, so these two pieces of wood should be together because they'll ring better. And I'm like,
you're only supposed to play in one key.
I'm like, who does that, right? But it's Steve Vai, and how much more of a processed sound could you have from a guitar? But that's his mojo. That's what works for him, man.
It makes sense.
It does, and
you know what? It would, to me, it would make sense. Like I said, if the guitar was made to play in a certain key, it's like
a harmonica,
right? This guitar is made to play in C, and this one is made to play in A.
Wouldn't that suck?
Wow.
Guys that like to write a song in D. Now I got to go to the store.
I'd need 13 different guitars just to get there in the night. Well, no, because nobody plays it all 13.
No.
No. Especially if you have horns, but
Exactly. And then if you have bagpipes, forget it, because they're in a, what did I, C sharp or something crazy? Yeah.
I don't know, but those drone notes behind are just,
I knew a guy that had bagpipes, and he was a bagpipe player, and he was very good. And those guys, I tell you what, that is a lot of air.
Yeah.
And they most of them have hard of hearing because they are very loud. 120 decibels some of them times they get.
Yeah, well, you got those four little rods droning notes right next to your ear.
Ranking.
Yeah.
So, anyway, is there anything else?
We should electrify bagpipes.
I think they probably have.
Yeah, with microphones.
Let the guys from Axe Effects do it. They would probably give you any ear you want. My worry, I guess, in the music world, and this is where the traditionalists are trying to keep the traditional stuff going, and then, of course, you got all the new guys that are coming up in the world, and amplifiers are not even an option. They just, nope, I got it right here in a bag. I'll go into the next gig. It's a weird world. You got the F1 world, and then you got the guys driving around in the 32 boy hot rods. You know what I mean? And that's the world we live in. So hopefully the 32 Ford low boys or high boys, whatever you want to run, is going to still be here.
I hope
10
so.
years from now.
I hope so.
It's okay if you have the Formula One car, but let's not forget where that came from.
True. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. I want to harken back to an old school technology and thank Vinny from VPix.
Yes.
Who sent us a bunch of picks.
I've been playing with the 4mm.
Oh yeah?
And I tell you what, it's weird because I like it.
The real thick?
Yeah.
Yeah. Me too. It's weird.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. And this is old school way to change your sound. Now this, along with the difference in the Les Pauls, I've only had time this week to be experiencing this acoustically. I have not heard
plugged in
what the Les Pauls are plugged in, how different they are, how similar they are plugged in, and maybe acoustically I know they're acoustically different, but in a very cool way. But the same thing with the picks that Vinny sent. You can absolutely hear the difference in rounded edges as opposed to pointed edges. I think everybody's probably figured that out by now.
And it amplifies very well because I do it. I've already done it on my SG.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a difference.
The one thing that I found is those ghost edge picks.
Yeah, you get a violin sound.
It adds a three-dimensional aspect to the note.
Yep.
That is like, it's you got to experience it.
You get that whatever that is. I don't know what that. It's cool.
Yeah, it's and they're not really abrasive. They're just not polished.
Yeah. Now what I've done is because I have the one that's the 4mm thick and it's got the point on the end and it's got the rounded sides, right? Well, I've played that pick so much as of late that I actually started smoothing out the pointed side, right?
Right.
So you can really pick fast because it's a very fine point. I mean,
it is.
You could stab somebody with that thing.
Yeah.
And being the acrylic, it doesn't give, so you can hurt somebody with that pick. Yeah. You throw it out in the audience, you can probably stick it in somebody's forehead. Although it's $4,
right?
So you may be like not doing that too much during the night.
Yeah.
But what I found is I'm starting to actually smooth it. It's starting to get like
wear down a little.
Yeah.
bit.
So he said, you got to have that cloth or that emery board to kind of rough it up again.
Right.
Well, what I like about it is I leave the other sides rounded. So when I do the rhythm parts, I kind of get that weird ghost thing going on with that scratchy. And then when I do the solo part, you can really fly because it's now smoothed out.
Nice.
There's no drag on it. It's pretty crazy.
I haven't played it enough to smooth it out yet.
Well, I've been just using it constantly, and my new guitar I love, so I've been playing the crap out of it.
Yeah, the guitar's awesome, man. It's really nice.
Yeah, I threw some pictures up on Instagram of the guitar.
Cool.
And that made it all the way down, but it's not on the website. I will put those on the web. They should be on the website by the time this episode airs.
Okay.
Yeah. So I guess we want to really thank everybody for tuning in for all these episodes.
Yes.
We can't thank you guys enough. Without this audience and all the positive feedback that we've gotten, this would be kind of a weird thing because I could just call Jeff and have the same conversation.
Which we've done even before we started the podcast, of course.
This conversation that we just had tonight is basically how most of our dinners went before this started.
Right. We have dinners with the wife units.
Yes, and the tangents that we would go off on were just insane. And we love Eric Johnson. We are not busting on.
Oh
that
no,
cat
not
whatsoever.
at all, man, not at all.
Eric is one of those guys that. Who knows what we would be doing without a guy like Eric Johnson in our musical world? You know? He's responsible for Neuroses 101. Yes.
And everybody thinking a lot more than they used to think about a lot more things.
Here's a guy that took and changed how you play scales. Just, hands like spiders, but just an amazing player. And God bless him. I mean, I hope he lives a happy life.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he can sleep and I hope he enjoys when he plays.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those two things, it's got to suck.
Yeah, it would really suck. And I do like his tone. I like how I like his music.
Yeah.
I've always been a fan.
No, tone-wise,
He makes a Strat do things that people go, that's not a Strat. And it's like, yeah, it is. So... but yes, thank you.
But does it take an Eric Johnson Strat to do that?
No, I think it takes Eric Johnson's hands.
Exactly.
So, my friend, until next time, I am Mick Marcelino.
And I am Jeff Bober.
And we are saying...
Thank you very much and onward.
Be sure and follow the show on Twitter @AmsandAxes. Also, make sure you like the show on Facebook. For news, comments, and everything else, visit the webpage, AmsandAxesCast.com. Thanks for listening.